Now, here's the reality. The fact that bail was denied, and with the explanation that the judge gave, there is only one possible scenario for why. And it goes beyond just someone made a phone call. Okay, there's another case coming. There's another indictment coming. There has to be. Otherwise, doesn't make any sense. And I'll explain to you exactly why right now. All right, so I went live immediately upon finding out that Diddy had had his bail tonight. And what you got in that live stream, if you watched it, was just my immediate thoughts. Based on basically only the fact that I found out that they had denied his bail after obviously understanding what he had been convicted of. So I've had, I don't know, 16 hours to sit and actually think a lot about this, about why I feel the way that I do, and why I believe that I have, like, good thoughts here to share with everybody to make people understand why or how I think
and no longer has a voice who will pursue justice for her accusation.
Now I'm going to do a video about something
as of
that
the
I know a lot
Diddy,
of my viewers will
no
disagree
expansion
with.
of the investigation,
no
isolation orders,
I always
no
feel like
equipment
I
access,
need to try
no
to connect
suspension
with
of attorney
who's
communication,
watching, so that it's not just the people who agree with me that are like, yes, like I'm trying to talk more to the people who feel another way about it. So that you can at least, you don't need to necessarily come out of this thing agreeing with me, but I just want you to understand where I'm coming from, because bottom line is, I've told you this, I've seen a video of this man beating up a girl. Like, dude, I don't have sympathy for him and know what happens to him. Now, obviously, if they get, if it turned out the only thing he's ever done is like hit women, and they were like, oh, we're going to give him the electric chair, I might be like, whoa, 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 okay? Like, hang on. Now, if he did this every single day, it was a constant thing, and he was constantly hurting people, I'm like, the only thing this guy exists to do is to hurt people, sure, whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about. Mostly, what I'm telling you is, like, I don't have sympathy for Diddy specifically. That is not where any of this comes from. Where this comes from is an understanding of how societies are supposed to function, and where we get into extremely, extremely dicey territory. Okay, I actually think this is that big of a deal. Okay, I think this is that big of a deal because it's the exact same mechanism that was applied very recently within the last few years, which led to an outcome in the most recent election, which has had absolutely thermonuclear impact across the globe, right? I think it's pretty, fair to say that had the election gone the other way, we would be in a very different world right now. Okay, obviously there are a lot of people who think that be better, and most of us think that it would not be better, but it's neither here nor there, okay? Because here is what's actually going on. So Diddy gets convicted of what the Mann Act, which means transporting someone across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. Okay, he gets acquitted of sex trafficking. He gets acquitted of RICO racketeering. Okay, so bottom line is, right when he was being held absent bail, it was because he was facing life in prison. It was because he was a flight risk. He's this incredibly wealthy person and all of that stuff. And supposedly he might be tampering with witnesses. That's what they said, okay? Now, I've said from the beginning that if you're not paying attention to why what the origin of this case actually is, then you can't understand what you're really looking at, right? Because the origin of this case, no one is going to convince me that I'm wrong. Now, I'm not saying I know this for 1,000% certain, but what I'm saying is, if you put my hand on the table and you're like, all right, this is like the scene in Casino, and we're going to break all your fingers in your hand if you're wrong, I would immediately say this is happening because of what happened between Diddy and Dayo. And me crying is happening because you haven't subscribed to my channel and you haven't liked this video yet. Okay? Diddy bit the hand that fed him in a way that you do not. Okay? What these people are, these
present
BlackRock
and no
guys,
longer has a
Vanguard
voice who
guys,
will pursue justice for
and
her accusation.
I feel like I say
as of the
these
taken
things,
against Diddy,
and
no
people,
expansion of the investigation,
really
no isolation orders,
no
equipment access, no suspension of attorney communication.
Like, they're not wealthier than Diddy. These groups Vanguard and BlackRock own 95% of like the Fortune 500 companies in the world. They own everything. Okay? Like they own everything. Now, I'm not saying they own it outright, but they are, the incredibly large shareholders in all of the biggest companies in the world. Okay? They run everything. Okay? If you own 10% of a Fortune 500 company, the influence that you have over that organization, you can't even exaggerate. I mean, like, you can't do anything without their say so. Okay? They have voting rights, all of that stuff. They're always on the board. They're always on the board of these companies, and they're kingmakers. Okay? That is what they are. That is why you see such consistent opinions from people who are in Hollywood, who are music artists, who like where you're like, where is someone who's willing to say this thing that seems very obvious? Like, as an example, that women should not be competing against men in sports. Like, where were all of the big wig people just coming out against this that could have shut this down in 1 second? Like, where are all the big entertainers? They all have brains, and the reason why none of them say it is because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. It's the reason that none of them came out against, these mandates. None of them came out against, this thing. None of them, right? And you're like, where are they? There's no way that there's none of them who don't, none of them have questions about this. It's because they don't want to step out of line with those guys, because those guys own Pfizer. Those guys own Magna. Those guys own the entire process. Okay? We're talking about the exact same people. And those guys own Dayo, and they made Diddy into a king. All right? Bottom line, like, Diddy was made by these people, and Diddy had been a good partner to them throughout the last 25, 30 years. However long they had been in this partnership, okay? So if you guys remember Sorak, Vaca, we're going to go over this really, really quickly, so we are all on the same page about what just happened yesterday, okay? Diddy had made something. He made hundreds of millions of dollars through his partnership with Sorak, okay? And it was a revenue share. They had this Vaca that wasn't doing very well. They put Diddy on. They're like, I mean, we don't know what to do with this thing. We'll split profit. Any profits that are generated above what we're doing right now, we'll split with you, right? It was like a throwaway thing, because they're like, whatever. It's all upside for us. And Diddy crushed it so hard with that partnership that he ended up making hundreds of millions of dollars. They enabled that, okay? They are the ones who enabled that. They get into a second partnership with him, but this time they co-own a tequila brand. Whatever. The details don't matter. Diddy gets upset with them, okay? Dayo is a $100 billion company. He says, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He writes to them, starts threatening them. He wants $100 million from them, or else blah, 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 whatever. Details, not really super relevant for this. He says, I'm going to cry racism, and I'm going to burn the house down, okay? Now, I could get into why he said that. It's irrelevant.
Present,
and it was still
and no longer
very
has a voice who will pursue justice for her accusation.
More dishonest
As of the taken
calling
against
a company that has
no
made a
expansion
black
of the
man
investigation,
into
no
a
isolation
billionaire.
orders,
Okay?
no
That
equipment
black
access,
man,
no
he's a
suspension
billionaire
of
black
attorney
man,
communication.
and you're threatening to call them racist. What could be more dishonest than that? And then he actually did it, and he cost the company $22 billion in market value. Then they get into this lawsuit. They settle it January 2024, and his house gets raided 3 months later. Okay, this is the direct result of that, in my opinion. No one's going to convince me otherwise. And now we find out what the outcome is. Because bottom line is, okay, his bail being denied. Think about it like this, dude. The judge said this to him when he was, when he got to the verdicts were read. The judge said, I assume that Mr. Combs doesn't want to go back to MDC Brooklyn, so he's intending on letting him go, okay? Then this is what happens, okay? So let's talk about this. Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his sex trafficking case. And here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters, in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated, as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed, as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Aaron Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the three most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. His defense attorney Mark Agnafilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnafilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond, co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Kesha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California, as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers. According to NBC News, Combs was bottom line. Here's the bottom line, okay? When the judge says that the reason he's not letting him out is because he has proven that he is a violent threat to others, that he has shown himself to be incapable of following the law, yada yada. The reason that I can confidently say that someone stepped in and told the judge to not let him out is because the judge knows how the court system works. He knows how the legal system works, okay? Diddy was not convicted of any violent crimes. He was acquitted of the violent crimes, okay? He is not facing charges from any violent crimes. He has nothing as it relates to the legal system related to violence pending, okay? Now, is there a superseding indictment that's coming down the pipe? That's the only thing that I can think of. The only thing that could possibly explain what has happened is that there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that the judge knows about. That is my current theory, okay? Because the opposite, the alternative makes no sense, okay? The alternative makes no sense. I mean, honestly, I'm actually thinking about this right now. Here are your only two options. Your only two options are the big boys called him, and he said, don't let him out, because they wanted to bury him under the jail. And you can rest assured that he is going to get a harsh sentence.
And no
Now,
longer has a
very harsh
voice who will
sentence.
pursue
And you know
justice for
and
her
again,
accusation.
This is all because this is
As of the
coming.
taken against Diddy,
my play with
no
matches.
expansion of the
That's me and my
investigation,
wife's show.
no
You should go
isolation
follow
orders,
that. The
no
link is in
equipment
the
access,
description. We
no
actually just
suspension
did
of
a show
attorney
about this
communication.
also, okay? But the bottom line is this. I mean, it's indefensible. It's indefensible to keep him locked up, awaiting sentences. And you know when his sentencing is going to happen? October, July, August, September, October. So you're talking another 3.5 months in prison. For what? In jail. For what? Because an escort flew across the country to have sex with a everybody involved is a willing participant, according to the jury already heard this case, and they determined, okay, that they were willing participants, which means there are no victims here. None. These are victimless crimes. So how can you possibly justify it? Okay? So either they called and they were like, lock him up, okay? Like, keep him in jail, and the judge did it. Or there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that is going to be much more, a lot more violent stuff coming. A lot of others, which is not even close to impossible, not even remotely close to impossible. And as a matter of fact, that is as of this moment hypothesis. I can't, I literally just got there right now, okay? So when you think about the fact, when you really get into the weeds of this thing, and you think about what was in this case and what wasn't, right? Like what was in this case and what wasn't. There are all these crazy accusations that Diddy has, right? All these things that are all over the place. And the only thing involved in this was two of his ex-girlfriends, that those are the supposed victims, two of his ex-girlfriends. Think about all the things that we've heard he's accused of. We heard he shot a guy. We heard he had Tupac murdered. We heard that he has been grabbing people all over the place. We heard he's been drugging people all over the place. We heard about kids at his party. None of that stuff involved in this trial. The only thing that makes any sense is that there is a forthcoming superseding indictment that is going to include a lot of that stuff, because it's not like he was acquitted of those things. They didn't try him for those things. They didn't indict him for those things. So as of now, what my hypothesis is that there is another case coming. And while he thinks he beat this case, he didn't beat. He's being held, and before he even gets sentenced for this one, they're going to indict him on something else, okay? Because again, bottom line, if these guys want you got, if they want you got, you're getting got, dude, okay? Like they did this trial. Think about this. This whole trial was invented out of nothing, like literally out of nothing. I mean, yeah, you have the video of him beating up Cassie for sure. But I mean, like in terms of sex trafficking, it was absurd, ludicrous. And you're telling me that there are no other cases that they could make out of all these other people who are willing to testify against him. There's tons of people who despise him that would testify against him in 1 second. You know what I mean? So the reality is, like, now, as of this moment, if I had to bet on what's coming for Puff, it's another case, and another case that will drop on him before October when he's sentenced. So those are my honest thoughts. I mean, honestly, I think that's what's happening, because and if not, even still, he's still going to get, I mean, he could face up to 10 years in prison for each count of the Mann Act, which is absurd. I mean, that is so crazy. I want you to seriously think about this, okay? If you guy, okay? Let's say guy, right? Or girls, whatever. Like, let's say you're single and you're going to Las Vegas.
Present,
and you
no longer
have
has a
lot of
voice who
money,
will
and
pursue
you're
justice
like,
for her
"Man,
accusation.
You know what would be great?
As of the
is if
taken
I
against
really-
Diddy,
I don't feel
no
like
expansion of
making
the
a whole thing.
investigation,
I don't wanna
no
go to the
isolation
clubs
orders,
and like
no
try to
equipment
meet a
access,
girl or
no
whatever.
suspension
I just
of attorney
wanna know
communication.
for sure that I'm going to have a beautiful woman to spend the night with while I'm there. That's all I want, dude. And so you look through whatever sources that you have. You go on the internet, or you call somebody who knows a service or whatever, and you look, you go online and you look at the website, and it's a girl who's an escort, and she's like, here are my pictures, here are my rates, and you call her and you're like, so yeah, I'm coming into town. What I would love to do is I would like to do an overnight. Okay, that's 7,000. Okay, cool. Like that's cool. Let's do. And I guess so. I'll call you when I get there. Yeah, call me when you get there. We'll stay plan for whatever. You fly to well, no, I take that back. They would need to come to you. So you're like, I'll be in Las Vegas, and that person's in Scottsdale. And so you go to Vegas, you fly them from Scottsdale, and they're going to spend the night with you in Las Vegas. You guys are obviously planning to have sex with each other. And like, you're telling me that you deserve 10 years in prison for that. Who's the victim? Like, who's the victim there? Why would you possibly deserve 10 years in prison for that? You're not cheating on anyone. Not that that is illegal anyway, but you are participating in a completely willing exchange of goods and services. This is what this person does for a living. It's a beautiful girl. You're obviously a wealthy person. If you're willing to spend that amount of money for one night with a girl, everybody's happy. Everybody walks away happy. Why on earth would we take a person like that? Because I feel like people don't think that it's us doing this, okay? Like it's us when you like, oh, they're going to put them in prison. It's not them putting them in prison. It's us putting them in prison. We are the ones who set the rules, okay? Like collectively. Does that make sense? Is that a worthwhile is that a worthwhile use of our legal system? Some rich guy wants to hire some beautiful girl who's down to go hang out and have sex with a rich guy for that amount of money. Like, that's exactly what this is, except it's even worse. because it's a dude that's getting hired. It's absurd, okay? There's no reason that he should be in jail unless he is facing another child, another charge, which is highly likely. Anyway, that's what I got for this video. I love you.